All right, we are live, at least we will be very shortly. And yes, I think we're live on YouTube, and we're going to go live on Amazon now in 3, 2, 1, and we are live on both here. And what I've got today is some fun stuff. We're going to be looking at one product, at least for now, because I've got a lot of stuff going on tonight. This is the 8bitdo 02, and these are little tiny game controllers that are compatible with everything, at least everything except the iOS platform. So we're going to be testing these and going through a full review. I am charging this one right now just in case they didn't come charged. And look how small these things are. So there is a turquoise one here. They also have a yellow one, and then there's a pink one, which they didn't send me, but I got these two colors in. And these are going to be probably best suited for probably your classic games, because it doesn't have control sticks, obviously, and it just has the two shoulder buttons. So it's kind of like a mini SNES controller, but it's got a full-size D-pad on it here, so that looks pretty neat. And we'll be doing a couple different tests with this shortly. Let me just get my phone configured here, and we'll get moving, because I am on a tight deadline today, because every time there's a new Star Wars movie, I rent out a movie theater, and let me just take a look here at what's going on here. I rent out a local movie theater for the Star Wars movies, so we've got my whole bunch of us, 169 of us, are going to the movies tonight, so it should be fun. It's friends and friends of friends. It's going to be a good time. Even if the movie's bad, I'm going to still enjoy going to see it, because the last movie I went to was the Solo movie. I don't go to the movies anymore unless there's a Star Wars movie, then I go. That is it. So these are the little controllers here. So we're going to do a quick little intro to these, and then so I'm going to kind of shoot this as I go. So I did play around with these a little bit earlier, so I know kind of what they're able to do. But yeah, they are super tiny. Look at that. That is it. And these are not yet available. I think they're going to be available between Christmas and New Year's. $20 a piece is the price on these. So we got Raymond here, Razzo45, Hussein Al-Safar is here, William Wilkinson is here, and B. Speezy is here as well. And can you charge it through your phone? I would imagine if your phone has a power output capability, you could probably charge it that way. One thing I'm not sure about, and we'll test this when we hook them up, is I don't think these work with a USB connection, even though they have the connector on there. So we're going to hook it up to a PC first, and I've got the switch down here. We're going to test that as well. We got to do latency tests and all that other stuff in addition to that. And Richard Mendoza is here too. All right, so I'm going to just start and do an intro, and then we'll cut into the hardware overview, and then from there we'll do a little bit of testing and shoot as we go. And my goal is to try to do this shoot in like an hour and a half. Let's see if we can pull that off. And Kerry Bai is here from Ohio. Excellent. All right. So let's get this going here. And if you're watching on Amazon, feel free to ask questions of what we're looking at here. These are the new 8bitdo Zeros, and they are little keychain size controllers. And I'm looking forward to playing around with these. All right, let's do our intro here. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at a very tiny game controller from 8bitdo. This is the 8bitdo 02. And these are little tiny keychain size game controllers in classic format. And we're going to be taking a look at what you can do with these in just a second, because they work with just about everything, including the PC, the Switch, Android, Raspberry Pi, everything pretty much but iOS here. And we're going to be seeing what these controllers can and can't do in a second, given their small, tiny... Let me start this again. This is my first shoot of the day. So yes, for Rich says, I feel like we're my producers. It's actually helpful, because in a few instances, questions came up during the shoot that I would not have covered in the video. So having the live audience here has been really, really helpful. Yes, Hussein, these do support the Switch, and we'll put that to the test momentarily. I have a Switch down there we're going to pull up on the desk. We're going to do that and measure latency too. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at a really tiny game controller from 8bitdo. These are their new 02s, and they're about the size of a keychain, but you've got almost a full-size D-pad here to play with. These are laid out similar to a Super Nintendo controller, but of course are very, very portable. And we're going to take a look at all the things you can do with this controller here in just a second. It's got a lot of compatibility too. It'll work with the Switch, the PC, Android, Raspberry Pi, so a good amount of compatibility, and we're going to be putting all of that to the test now. I do want to let you know, though, in the interest of full disclosure, that these two controllers came in free of charge from 8bitdo. However, all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, nor is anyone reviewing it or approving it before it gets uploaded. So let's take a look now and see what these little controllers are all about. All right, I could live with that one. Let me see. I may upload this tonight if I can get this done on time. The battery, no, it's a little lithium rechargeable battery in here, so it's I don't think it's easy to take apart, otherwise I would. So these are rechargeable with their USB cable, and I'm going to charge one of them up while we step through the hardware, because I want to make sure we have enough juice to actually use these things. Let me just play this back real quick and make sure we got a good take. So those of you who've been watching some of my live streams, you'll see me do a take, and then we play it back. And then we go on and move on with the video. And this one's going to be a little different because I'm going to be doing some of the testing, because I did play with them a little bit, so I have a feel for them. It's not a complicated product, but we're going to do our latency tests and stuff as I'm shooting the video here. So that is the plan. So let me pull up 3, 2, 1. DDR2 here. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at a really tiny game controller from 8bitdo. These are their new 02s, and they're about the size of a keychain, but you've got almost a full-size D-pad here to play with. These are laid out similar to a Super Nintendo controller, but of course are very, very portable. And we're going to take a look at all the things you can do with this controller here in just a second. It's got a lot of compatibility too. It'll work with the Switch, the PC, Android, Raspberry Pi, so a good amount of compatibility, and we're going to be putting all of that to the test now. I do want to let you know, though, in the interest of full disclosure, that these two controllers came in free of charge from 8bitdo. However, all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, nor is anyone reviewing it or approving it before it gets uploaded. So let's take a look now and see what these little controllers are all about. All right, we can live with that. And let's jump to, oops. Yeah, they should work with the Shield, because they do work with Android. So that should definitely be workable. Martin Paolini is here, and we have Nathan Martin is here too. Welcome, everybody. I think I may demo this one. I think it shoots better. All right, so we're going to do the hardware overview. And then what I'm going to do next is we'll take out my gaming PC and we'll measure latency on that. And then we'll measure latency on the Switch, and then we'll move on with the rest of the review. All right, so let us do the hardware overview. 3, 2, 1. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. These are available in 3 different colors. I have 2 of the colors here. So you've got a yellow one, a turquoise one, similar to the colors of the new Switch Lite. And you also have one available in pink if you want. These cost about $20 a piece and are about the size of a keychain. In the box, you get a matching little wrist strap here that attaches down here on the lower section of the controller. And you also get a super short USB cable that I've already misplaced to charge it. And of course, it has a recharge. Where'd that USB cable go? I just opened these boxes up and I don't have the cable. Here it is. All right, let's try that again. And I think there actually is a little bit of plastic film on top of the, yeah, look at that. I know some of you love peeling the plastic off of stuff, so watch this. Look at that. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, beautiful. Much better. Okay. So let me pull the film off of these things here. And Martin says they can also be used as a camera shutter. That's kind of a neat idea. Yeah, it's got a keyboard mode to it. Ready? Ooh, look at that. All right. Rich Wilson leaves the stuff on the plastic for years. So, Christian, I'm not going to be able to compare it to the original Zero because I don't have the original. I do know people that do have them, though. I could maybe ask them. Rerez, I'm sure, will be getting some of these. Yeah, they're very glossy, aren't they? Look at that. That's why they got the plastic on them. They can probably easily be scratched there. 3, 2, 1. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. These cost about $20 a piece, and they are available in turquoise, yellow, and pink. So you have your choice of colors. In the box, you get a little silicone wrist strap here that you can attach to the bottom portion of the controller. That's what it looks like. And you get a super short USB charging cable. These will, of course, charge up via USB. There's a rechargeable battery inside. And I'm guessing you could probably get about 10-15 hours of gameplay at least out of these things. I haven't seen any real issues with the battery just yet, but you'll probably want to charge them up because it does have a much smaller battery than other controllers that are much larger. This kind of mirrors the Super Nintendo design here. You've got a nice full-size, or at least close to full-size D-pad here. We'll test and see how well it can keep the diagonals in check here in a few minutes. You've got select and start, your usual button array here, and then you've got 2 shoulder buttons here at the top that are a little clicky, and that is pretty much it. I haven't had any real problems playing games on this thing. My hands aren't huge, so I think those of you with small to mid-size hands will do fine with this, but of course if you have larger hands, this is going to be a very challenging game controller to play around with, so I think you should probably limit yourself to folks that... All right, let me start this again. I'm just going off and rambling here. Straight right here. Tech Psychedelic wants to know if it's user replaceable. Probably not. I guess you could probably pry it open. It doesn't look like there's any screws here to get at it. I do like, though, that they put the instructions on the back. So if you lose the manual, you know how to connect it up with your devices. I'm going to shoot this part one more time. And they're not slippery, but they're just hard to hold on to. All right. Yeah, so... E.C. Myers came in to see how tiny it is. It is as tiny as advertised. It is like, that's it. So it's really tiny. These are wireless Caribou. I think actually they don't work in wired mode. That's the first thing I'm going to check when we connect it to my computer here in a second. All right, 3, 2, 1. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. These cost about $20 a piece, and they're available in 3 colors. They sent me the turquoise one and the yellow one here. These kind of mirror the new switched light colors. And then there's also a pink one that you can get. These are largely based on the Super Nintendo design, so the controller will look very familiar from a layout perspective against that one. You've got 2 very clicky shoulder buttons here at the top, a decent-sized D-pad here, and your array of buttons. And that is pretty much it. There is a USB port here at the top for charging. You get a very short USB charging cable in the box. This is a micro USB and not a USB-C. We'll test to see if we can connect it via USB directly, but otherwise it's probably best used as a wireless controller. It supports Bluetooth. It's compatible again with the Switch, Mac, Android, PC, and it supports Windows X input as well. You've got your silicone... I'm going to start this one more time, because I think I already covered the compatibility. So let's try this one more time here. See, I'm not rushing, but I am like thinking about all the stuff I got to do today, so I'm not focused here. So let's refocus and get this done right. All right. 3, 2, 1. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. These cost about $20 a piece, and they're available in 3 different colors. So we got the turquoise one and the yellow one here that they sent us, and there's also a pink one that you can choose from. The button layout here is pretty much a Super Nintendo layout. I like the size of the D-pad despite it being a very tiny controller. Your buttons here are arrayed just like that Super Nintendo controller will have their buttons laid out. Select and start here along with your shoulder buttons. You charge it up via USB, so it's got a rechargeable battery inside. Haven't had any battery issues while playing with these little controllers, but I would imagine they won't last as long as a larger controller with a larger battery. So you'll probably get, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 hours out of this before it dies on you. So you may want to just plug these things in when you're not using them. There is a wrist strap in the box that you get with it, and it matches the color, obviously, and you can put that down in the lower portion of the controller there, and you get a very short USB cable in the box here to charge up the controller. And that is it from a hardware perspective. So if you can deal with the small size, why don't we move on now and see how this little controller performs, and we'll start with the PC. Okay, so Timothy Sullivan says, what is this, a controller for ants? Martin Spuds here thinks they look like cookies. They do kind of look like cookies. I almost ate one this morning. Let me just check my cut here, make sure I'm happy with it. And 8bitdo says, this is exactly what I was talking about on the last stream. So perfect. So I'm glad I am able to deliver for you on this one. This is a fun one. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. These cost about $20 a piece, and they're available in 3 different colors. So we got the turquoise one and the yellow one here that they sent us, and there's also a pink one that you can choose from. The button layout here is pretty much a Super Nintendo layout. I like the size of the D-pad despite it being a very tiny controller. Your buttons here are arrayed just like that Super Nintendo controller will have their buttons laid out. Select and start here along with your shoulder buttons. You charge it up via USB, so it's got a rechargeable battery inside. Haven't had any battery issues while playing with these little controllers, but I would imagine they won't last as long as a larger controller with a larger battery. So you'll probably get, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 hours out of this before it dies on you. So you may want to just plug these things in when you're not using them. There is a wrist strap in the box that you get with it, and it matches the color, obviously, and you can put that down in the lower portion of the controller there, and you get a very short USB cable in the box here to charge up the controller. And that is it from a hardware perspective. So if you can deal with the small size, why don't we move on now and see how this little controller performs, and we'll start with the PC. All right, so we got my brand new gaming PC out here. This thing is awesome. I bought this Lenovo Y740. This is a 15-inch. I think some of you may have watched my stream the other day when I was setting it up, and I am quite happy with it. I got the 2080 Max Q in here, so the performance is not, it's not quite as good as, you know, a desktop class GPU, but this thing is running just slightly faster than my desktop upstairs. So to have that amount of horsepower in a portable device, I'm pretty happy with. So I'm good there. And I'm going to have a review of this soon. I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done before Christmas. So this might be, we did some footage yesterday of this one. So we got a bunch of 4K footage done with it yesterday. It actually did very well on the 4K stuff. So I am very happy with it. All right, let me find, I'm just looking for a cable here. And I just had a cable. So I'm curious if these controllers will work plugged in, because a lot of the 8bitdo controllers work with a direct connection, but it doesn't look like it from the manual that it will work with a USB connection. So that's my first, the first thing I want to check is that. And I've got a controller over here. Excuse me. And we're going to plug this in real quick. And then tonight, I'm going to go see the new Star Wars movie. And I have to get over there. I think I was mentioning to you all when we started that I rent out a movie theater. Well, what I do actually is I buy every ticket. And so I have friends that all chip in. And so 169 of us are going to see the movie tonight. And what's cool about this is that everybody kind of knows each other to some degree or another. So it's pretty cool. So Christian Ramirez bought one already, but it got delayed until January. So yeah, I guess these are open for pre-order. They had embargoed these for today, so that's why we're working on this today. All right, so I've plugged it into the PC, and oh, it looks like it does detect it. All right, so you know what? It does work plugged in. Perfect. And if I hit these buttons here, all right, so it's set up and ready to go. It's detecting a controller, and I'm supposed to be able to use my little game controller tester here. I think what we want to do, let me disconnect it real quick. Yeah, you know, let me close this out and go back in, because I got to set it to X input mode before I plug it in. So we're going to do that real quick. There we go. All right, so let's plug it in here. And then let's go back to my game controller tester. Okay, well, it looks as though it doesn't seem to show up as a X input controller here. See, normally with these 8bitdo controllers, you put them into X input mode and connect the USB, and you're ready to go. One thing I do want to check, though, is whether or not there is an update, because a lot of times these things, when they ship them to me early, they have a firmware update that happens in between. So I'm going to just download the firmware package to make sure that we've got these things fully up to date here. Oops. All right, so let me just download this real quick. It looks like there is a 1.04 firmware for this one. And this computer is brand spanking new. Vexerin bought a AMD Ryzen MateBook D14 thanks to my review. I'm glad you're happy with it. Yeah, these Ryzen devices from a graphical standpoint are really good and have been for some time. All right, let's do the updater. And then what's funny about their updater is that it gives you these warnings, so they're okay. I'm comfortable with these folks. All right, hold down LR and start on your controller and hold, okay. Oh, I got to hook it up first. All right, so let's disconnect it here. So you got to hold down LR and start. And then it'll go into, hold down L plus R plus start. There we go. So, okay, so now it's blinking. So now I connect the cable here. And we should see it show up on the list. Okay, so we're going to hit USB update. I'm going to select 1.4. Okay, oh good, so there was a firmware update available, so we're going to update it to 1.04. And Christian, it does have text on the back with instructions too. So yeah, I'll mention that in a little bit. Okay, firmware is upgraded. Okay. So we're done. All right, so now I just want to see, so my game controller thing is still not picking it up. So I'm going to hold down X. Let me see. The controls for X input are X and start. So let's hold down X and start. And it looks like the battery is dying on here too, so it probably needs to be plugged in. I've got a red light. And while this one's charging, I'm going to charge up the other one here too, just to get it enough juice to get started here. Because it would be very unfortunate to not have enough battery power to actually do the review. Yeah, so it looks like it's not detecting the controller in direct USB mode. And it didn't say that it would. It was something that was not mentioned, because let's take a look at some of the other ones that they have. So if we go over to, for example, the one we just looked at, which was these guys. This is another wacky controller that they came up with. It's got two D-pads on it. And if you scroll down, it'll tell you, like in the tech specs here, the connectivity. So it connects over USB and Bluetooth, but the one we're looking at today only has the Bluetooth option. So if we go to here and scroll down, you can see it's only showing, it's going to be hard to see, but it's only showing Bluetooth there. Yeah, these might, and PXC says that it might be good for kids. I would agree. It's probably best suited for tiny hands for sure. But it definitely doesn't, it definitely isn't going to work plugged in. But I think we could probably get the wireless component working here. So X input we already have set. And let me go over to close. Actually, we're going to just connect up with Bluetooth real quick. So let's just do that. And we'll get going here. So we're going to measure the latency. The good news is that I only have to measure latency once on each platform, so that's helpful. Because usually I measure the latency on the wired connection and the wireless connection. So here at least, we're only going to be wireless. So So let's go with my Bluetooth settings. And we're going to see if it picks up. Yep, there it is already, 8bitdo 02 gamepad. Interesting. It's showing up as a device, but I think it might just be showing up in a different mode here. Maybe just remove this and see if I can add it. And it looks like when it's charging, it's not going to let you connect it. So let's see if it picks it up now. All right, so Windows X input, press X and start, and then press the select button for 3 seconds to enter pairing mode. So we'll hit the select button for 3 seconds. Nope. There we go. And hold down select. All right. And I have the other one charging so we can switch back and forth if we need to. And now we should see it showing up on our list of controllers. There it is. And now it should appear as an X input controller, and there it is. And it looks like the battery is definitely low on this, if that battery indicator is any indicator. And now what I'm going to do here is if I push select and start, this will, let me go back to the old UI here. This will put it into testing mode. So you can see here as I push the buttons, these things light up. And I like to use this tester because it helps me figure out what the latency is in a real-world example. And I'll show you how I do that test here. Now it looks as though it is mapping the D-pad to the thumbstick. And I don't recall if there's a way to switch the roles here. Let me see. Yeah, so it doesn't look like from the instructions. I know that other controller we looked at, you could actually flip things around. Go to your Windows device. The controller will auto reconnect your Windows device with the press of start once it has been paired. When connected to your Windows device, select D-pad home. Okay. Oh, see, select plus D-pad down equals the home button, in case you want to push that. So if I hit select and down, it doesn't. Okay. All right, so let's do a little latency. Whoa, a little latency check here. And the way I do that is with my iPhone. And what I do here is, let me just put on my do not disturb here, so we don't have a phone ringing. What I do here is I go into my phone's slow-mo mode, and I get the button in frame. Now, this is not like a scientific thing, but this is enough to know like what's the real-world experience going to be like here. So we're going to hit this. Let me get this better grip on it here. So we're going to hit the button right. I get that one actually, maybe a better one. Let me get a little focus here. Oops. Wrong lens. Let's try this again. Now, when you see me doing this, it's like, oh, wow, that's immediate. But when you go and measure it, it's a whole different story. So I do a couple of those. And then I take the video and I download it onto my computer. And because we're shooting at 240 frames per second on the phone, we can deduce the latency between the button push and when something happens on screen. Now, I get vilified occasionally for this test because it's unscientific and yada, 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 but here's my thinking behind this, is that if you do enough of these tests and you keep all of the conditions the same, you can get a good sense of the variation between one controller and another, and that's kind of what we're doing here. So I'm going to go and just wait for that video to make its way to my computer. And the other thing you have to do is either have to connect directly to the computer with the iPhone or wait for it to do the iCloud sync, because you need the original 240 frames per second file to make this work. And so what I might do here, if the file doesn't upload all that quickly, is just connect it to my Mac that's on the desk here. And I'm going to pull it off with image capture. And then what we'll do is we'll count the frames and see how many frames it took to get the result. And then we can compare it to other controllers. Now, one thing that 8bitdo has improved considerably recently, or over the last year, is their latency. So the 8bitdo controllers, at least the bigger ones, are as responsive as a Microsoft Xbox One controller is. So there's really no variation in latency versus the two. So that's a big deal. All right, let me see if I can pick my phone up on here. And I'll show you my screen here in a second once I get everything set up. Although I don't think this cable... This cable may not transit data. There it goes, trust. Never mind. Okay, I'm going to type my phone password in here. And then we are connected. And I'm going to go to my iPhone. And I'm going to pull off that file. And then I'll connect up the TriCaster here so you can all see what I'm doing. Let's see, where is my cable? Here it is. And we're going to check this out. So we just ran that test. And next thing we're going to do is pull the file from the phone. And so let me do that real quick, and then I'll show you what this is going to look like. And for those of you watching, we're looking at that tiny little controller right there. That is the test subject today. And by the way, folks, I'm going to be doing a live stream a lot, but I'm doing one next week. I think it's going to be showing up in a few different places on Amazon. So be on the lookout for that. All right, and then my phone just like conked out here. I don't want to update my phone right now. I'm going to do it tonight when I have time. All right, for whatever reason, it did not let me download my video file here, but we're going to download that. And what we're doing here is we're measuring latency. So what this is measuring is how fast does the computer register the button push. And the best way to test this, I found, as I just mentioned, is to shoot the button and the screen of the computer that it's connected to with a high speed mode on a smartphone. So my iPhone does 240 frames per second, so we should be able to get a good idea as to what the wireless latency will be on the controller with this computer here. And I often recommend when you do one of these tests is to connect it to the fastest monitor you can find. Gosh, this is not cooperating. Hang on a second, folks. I may have to go to my other computer in a second. So the reason is that this is a 144 hertz monitor, so it's polling. The display is refreshing more frequently, so you get a better feel for exactly how it should. All right, I gotta just do this again. Hang on, folks. It's almost like it's losing its connection and then reconnecting. Nothing ever works properly when I am live for some reason. Let me close the Photos app here. I think I may just go over to my iMac and come back with the file. So if you have a more frequently updating display like this one at 144 hertz, you'll have much lower latency to begin with. And that's one reason why to look at a faster display. Not only do you get a smoother frame rate, but you also get the ability to have lower latencies on things as well. And the best way to do this stuff is to directly connect the controller, when available, the controller to the computer via USB. The fastest speed that I measure typically is an Xbox One controller, and I see about a 40, it's still conking out on me. All right, hang on a second, folks. I'm going to go plug this into my iMac, and I don't have a camera over there, but I can get the file off quicker if I do that. So let me just go over there real quick, because nothing ever works when I'm live. So you're going to hear me talk here, but I will be unable to show you what I'm looking at here. And of course, my lightning cable is missing from the computer back here, isn't it? Let's see. Is this my lightning cable? That is my lightning cable. Okay. So let me plug this into the phone here. Normally I wait for the iCloud sync, but we're in the middle of a shoot here, so we want to be faster about this. So let me go over to my image capture on here. And we will pull this up and trust the computer again. I do appreciate Apple being more secure, but sometimes being too secure means I can't get access to my own phone and content, and that sometimes gets me frustrated. All right, so I'm going to import this file. And what I'll do is I'll copy the file over to that other computer so you can see what I'm looking at. All right, that one seems to have transferred already. Okay, perfect. So let me run back to the other computer. We're going to have to do another round of this when we do the switch. All right, so now I'm going to go back over here. And we're going to load up the file on my little Mac, and I'll show you what I'm about to do. This will all make sense in just a second here. Kirby wants to know if I'm going to get a Mac Pro. I am not. If you watch my weekly wrap-up video, you can hear my thoughts on that. I see a lot of YouTubers are getting them, and hey, if you got the budget, go for it. But I do not. And actually, you know, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'd upgrade my TriCaster before I'd upgrade to another Mac, for sure. Yeah, Kulup Spring asks, SNES versus Sega Genesis. We're in a day and age now where we can play them all. So I think there's benefits to all. I had a Sega Genesis as a kid. I was a real big Sega fan. I always liked the underdog, so I really gravitated towards Sega. But I was very impressed with the Super Nintendo at the time. I think the Super Nintendo had a better color palette, so the games sometimes were more colorful. You had the Mode 7, you had some of the transparency effects. There was a lot of cool stuff on the that you would have on that machine. All right, bear with me, folks. I'm trying to figure out if this is the file. That is not the file. Maybe it is this one. It is that one. Okay, so let me cut over to camera 3 here. So this is the video we just shot. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make it all run at the lowest speed. And what I want to do is find a spot here where the button is getting pushed down. And see right about, so I mean this is not a totally scientific thing, but we're going to say right about here. We're going to start counting. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. That's not bad. Okay, so that's 1. So I'm going to write down 11 here. I'm just going to take a look at a couple of these. But this is actually really good. And it might speak to the Bluetooth radio on this laptop also. But to have it be that short is very good for Bluetooth. And I'll show you what that means in milliseconds in a second here. All right, so here's another one. All right, so there is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. So this is not completely scientific because I don't have a way to know exactly when the button actuates. So we can take our best guess as to when it actually actuates. So that is what we're looking at there. Okay, so let me go over to my, so I keep a log of stuff. So let me pull that up for you now, where we can compare everything. So we had 11 on this, which is exceptionally good. That's really low latency, folks. So let me go over to my latency spreadsheet. So look it up here real quick. And I'll show you this when I pull it up on screen for you here. All right, so game controller latency results. Now this is another thing that I measure. I got to put a public link to this because I have a public link to my other benchmarks. And what I've been doing is just keeping track of how everything does, right? And so we counted 11. And as you'll see here when I have it do the math, so there's one below here. We'll just call this 8bitdo. I guess I have to reorganize the chart here. 8bitdo 02, Lenovo 144 Hertz laptop. And we're going to say 11. And then if I just take my little thing, we know what the number is going to be, but 0.44 is 44 milliseconds. So there's actually really no lag at all, comparatively, on this little guy versus the Xbox One controller when it's directly connected. So that's really good. So while we're in the middle of this project, let me pull out the switch, which I happen to have right here. And we're going to run a similar test on the switch now and get it connected to that. And then we'll continue on with the shoot here. So let me set it up here. I'll put the laptop lid down and kind of put it on top of the laptop. Let me turn this on. My kids have been playing the Lego Builders game. And what I'm going to do here is go into my settings. And what we're going to look for on the settings here is let's see, let's go down to the controllers. We have to go to change grip order. And then on here, what we have to do is hold down Y and start. So we're going to turn off the controller here by holding down the start button. And then we're going to hold Y and start. And that'll switch it into switch mode. I believe that's the option. Yep. And then we're just going to wait for it to find the switch. It should just show up here in a minute. We got to hold on select. This one functions a little bit differently than some of the other ones I've looked at, but it should pick up pretty quickly here. Generally, that's what I found in my experience with these. Sometimes not. It's actually interesting. The other day I was having some problems getting my other 8bitdo controller to connect. There we go. See, you heard that? So now, and it shows up as a Pro controller. All right, so now I'm actually eager to see yes, I don't know what this shows up as. We'll try it with the classic game stuff in a second. All right, so now we're going to repeat the same process here and see what we get. Fernie Lopez, thank you very much for your Super Chat contribution. It is much appreciated. And Rich Wilson says the slow-mo really captures the flickering. Yeah, so my lighting here is still not great, and I have overhead house lights on. That's probably the flicker it's picking up. I think my studio lights are probably better, but this one that's on me is not a very high quality light. I'm going to be swapping that one out soon. And then I have two new ones above that are pretty good here. All right, so we're going to go back to slow-mo. Oops. And Timothy Sullivan says Bluetooth can be inconsistent. Yeah, and it would be more, and I think you would have more issues in a more crowded environment. Because if you have a lot of 2.4 gigahertz traffic going on, that would certainly impact things. In my house, even though I have all this electronics here, it's generally pretty low key because most of my Wi-Fi is on 5 gigahertz. All right, let me get this focused here real quick. I'll show you what I'm doing here. And let's get everything back in frame here. Okay. I'm just going to do this button here. There we go. Okay, we should have enough there. And now what I'm going to do is just run back to my desk over there and just copy this video over, and I'll show you what we just took. Sergio Lopez says, good afternoon. And David Mossman says, hello from London, UK. All right. Now, I found with the Switch that its Bluetooth is a little slower than what we might have on my fancy Lenovo gaming laptop there. So we'll see what we get here. So I'm just going to plug in here real quick. I'll be right back with the file. And then we can pick up the rest of the shoot, because the rest of the shoot now will be mostly just showing things. And if you're watching on Amazon, folks, feel free to ask some questions. I'm more than happy to answer anything. And actually, any questions you have before I shoot something would be really helpful because we know what to look for. All right. So that file is in. Disconnect the phone again. I'm going to run back over to the chair. And then what I'll probably do, we'll start with the PC as we mentioned in that video. And what we'll do is maybe run like Shovel Knight or something, which is probably a good game to test with that. One is from Cleveland. He loves the 8bitdo stuff. I do too. I think they make some really good controllers. And they do some wacky stuff like these little tiny ones too. It's kind of fun that they have a bunch of stuff. And you know what I like most about them is that they have improved their products substantially since they first came out. And I've been really impressed with what they've done in trying to make things better. So I have it's upstairs right now, but I have their SN30 Pro Plus, which is like a hybrid of a PlayStation design and a Super Nintendo design. I love it. And it works with my PC, it works with the Switch, so it's become like my universal controller because it works with all the stuff that I use. So it's really good. I think I don't know if I said hello to Christian Ramirez yet, but he's from Puerto Rico. Welcome. The weather is probably much nicer there than it is here. It is freezing here. Totally freezing. David Parker is from Maine, and it's probably even colder where he is, so I'm going to stop complaining about the weather now, because those hardy folks in Maine get it far worse than I do here, for sure. All right, let's go look at the date created here, and there is the file. All right, so let's cut over to what we just shot here, and we'll have this go that way and this go that way. And we'll get the camera in focus here. There we go. All right. And yeah, I think that flashing is coming from the overhead lights in the room here, because it doesn't look like it's coming from above, which is so those studio lights that I have shining down are actually pretty good. Because you see the light cast on the switch here, it's not changing. It's everything behind it. All right. So let's get that button lined up there. And you can see how slow 240 frames per second really is. All right, there we go. Okay, so there's a button push. We'll do a couple of these just to see what it's looking like. All right. So I'm going to start right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22-ish. So we're going to do another one here. This may not be out of bounds for the Switch, by the way. I found that it does have lower latency. Remember, the display on the Switch is not as fast as what we just had on the gaming laptop. So I think right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 that time. So this will have a little bit of a range to it. We're going to take a few more readings here. This is a little bit slower, I think, than what I am anticipating from this. Let me take a look at my switch list here. So the Pro controller, let's look at the, okay, so this is actually running about what we've seen with other 8bitdo controllers. I had a similar variation on the N30. 8bitdo N30 with Switch. I want to see what I have on the, and the Switch Pro controller is coming in around 72 on that same display. And then this was the Pro Plus. This is my favorite one, and that one's about 84. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. And the Retro-Bit Genesis controller, that was plugged in directly via USB. All right, so let's take a couple more readings here just to make sure we're in line. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 on that one. So to the point made earlier, this one's having more of a variety of readings than we saw on the PC. Maybe we'll revisit the PC one also just to see if there was any big variability there. And it could also mean too that, you know, I'm probably going to mention this, that the Bluetooth radio that you have on your device is a big factor in all of this. So this laptop here is brand new. This is like the creme de la creme of gaming. So they're going to put in components that reduce lag and latency, including the Bluetooth radio. We don't have that same expense being put together on a console they're trying to keep the price at a certain point at. This is also, by the way, a first generation Switch. So it'd be really interesting. I got, don't tell anybody, but I bought my wife a Switch Lite. So I'm actually eager to see how these might do on the new one, because that's a totally new hardware design, to see if maybe that one might deliver a different result. So that's something I'm eager to check out. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21? 21 on that one. Yeah, so this is all over the place. So it's like 18 to 24. So if we were to average that, I'm sure somebody can come up with that a lot quicker than I can. So 18, 22, 24, and, oh, we started, so 18, 22, 20, okay, so we have two 18s. 18 plus 22, oh, 118, okay, plus 24. So, gosh, come on, hang on a second. 18 plus 22 plus 24 divided by 3. So we're looking at about 21.3. So we'll say 21-ish. And if we go over to our list here, we're right in line with the SN30 Pro, folks. So it's pretty much on track. 0, 2. Switch screen, 21, and then we'll just do the math on this one. Of course, it'll be the same. So about 84 milliseconds, give or take. So that's a little lower than what you get with the Switch Pro controller, but in line with other 8bitdo controllers. And I'm finding their controllers are very consistent, like as far as how one works to the next. So, hey, David Bound is here from Bolton, Connecticut, not far. David Parker is at 26. I actually think I got you beat today. I haven't checked my outside temperature recently, but the wind chill was killer when I took my dog out for a walk. And I have a Siberian Husky, so she doesn't care if it's cold. In fact, she prefers it to be cold. And she doesn't care how I feel about it either, because she wants that walk. And what she does is she terrorizes the children if I don't give her that walk. So, you gotta be good to the dog, because she'll make your life miserable. And Christian, we just updated the firmware on the controller, so this one at least is up to date, and the other one is charging right now. But yeah, I did notice that too. When they have a firmware update, you can see a pretty big change in the performance. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to load up Shovel Knight, and I think actually it might be beneficial. I think I'll mention what it maps things to as far as the D-pad, because the D-pad is mapped to the thumbstick that you would have, analog thumbstick. And it doesn't appear like you can change that. Although I did see them, so that other controller we looked at, they did come up with a way after I did the review of switching the way the D-pad works, but I don't see that on here. And also I don't see where my Steam is loading up here. Maybe I have to log into Steam. Oh, there we go. All right, let's go log into Steam real quick. I am an Xbox Game Pass member, by the way. And I have so many games, I don't know what to do with myself. I have so many games, and then they have this Steam sale, and like all this stuff is on sale. I mean, everything's cheap, and I buy the games, and I never play them. So I just want to show you my library, because it's almost embarrassing. Look at all these games I have. And I just buy them when they're like $5-10 a piece, and then I end up with this huge. Do I have? Oh, this is Force Unleashed. It's the older one. So I have like all these cool games. I have Rogue Squadron 3D. I forgot I even had that one. I have all the X-Wing games. I do play a lot of the VR stuff, because that's stuff I've been. I have such limited time for game playing these days, so I've been really enjoying the VR, especially for those of you who watch what I do, because it's so new and different, and I'm really enjoying that experience. All right, so we're going to install Shovel Knight real quick. It might take a second to download. We'll do a little game test. Let's see I got some other questions here. MC Rambro, am I going to review the WD MyCloud EX2 Ultra? Likely not. Are they still making that one? Because I know the PR 2100 and 4100 have kind of become the performance ones. Wish list for 8bitdo, that's a good question. I just want to keep seeing what they come up with. I would like them to bring back, because they had a few controllers that were dead ringers for the originals, and they stopped making those. And I would love to have a few more of those come back. because I do like the familiar feel of original controllers. And I'm guessing there was probably some licensing issues or concerns they had with that. Beat to Bobble says, speaking of firmware updates, there hasn't been any new updates for the 30 Pro, the M30, or the N30. I don't think so. I think what happens is when they get it working, they just kind of leave it alone. That's what it sounds like to me. Wreckfest, I was updating. I got to get Shovel Knight to be a priority here. Let's download that now. There we go. Shovel Knight's only 290 megabytes. Oh, somebody has come up with a NES port of Shovel Knight. It looked incredible. It was on Twitter the other day. Somebody like posted that. And the developers of Shovel Knight were all in on it. Like they weren't upset about it. That was good. And PXC points out that the SN30 Pro Plus, which has that great software for configuration, it only works on Windows and the Mac, I believe, not Linux. And that is a good point. Here's another game I haven't played, this IL-2 Battle of Stalingrad, which is a VR flight simulator. What I really want out of VR is an X-Wing simulator, because nobody's come up with that yet. They did it on the PlayStation, that was it. And I would almost buy a PlayStation and a VR setup just to have that experience, but it's very short from what I hear. All right, so let's see how we do with Shovel Knight here. All right, King of Cards is now available. Oh, you know what? I have to repair it with the PC here. Hang on a second. I think it should repair back up. Let me go back to my Bluetooth settings here. But I am very pleased with this new laptop, and I'm going to tell you all about it soon. I think I have to repair it, maybe? Let's see. Yeah, I think I may have to repair. So let's do a repair. Let's repair and repair. Or we can repair the connection by repairing. Get it? I might be wrong about that, PXC. I just don't. I haven't seen them for sale, but they might still be around somewhere. I could be totally wrong about that. All right, where's my 8bitdo 0? I guess I got more stuff running here than I thought. You know, this might still be showing up as a Pro controller. I think I got to rejigger the. Yeah, it's still showing up as Pro controller. So I switched out of switch mode. Let me try connecting to it and see what happens. It's still calling itself Pro controller. That could be a firmware bug too. See what I mean, folks? Nothing ever works right when I'm shooting a video, right? There's always something. All right, so we're going to make sure that I'm doing this right. X input, X and power, X and start. Okay, so I'm getting that same thing. I'm going to cancel that. Oh, tap to set up your 8bitdo. Okay, let's do that. There, now it sees it. Allow. Connection failed. All right, let's hold down the select button here and do the pairing again. I probably should not have done what I did. And it could be that perhaps the Bluetooth doesn't refresh the name, maybe? Because it's definitely, like, it's that, because it's right next to it. If not, you know what we'll do is we will, let me plug it in real quick and see if that does anything. Let's go back. Oh, hang on. It's weird that it sees it, although it doesn't seem like it can control via that. It seems like it's still stuck in switch mode is what it seems like to me here. So let me turn this off again. And X plus start. So I'm going to hold on X plus start. I'm going to hold it down here for a second and see if that might. Yeah, it just seems like it's not wanting to get out of switch mode. Now it wants a PIN number. Something's all out of whack here. I think we may have discovered a little firmware bug here, folks. Let me hold down the select button here and do a force pairing. Because usually these 8bitdos are much more, see, it still shows up here as Pro Controller. Well, never fear. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to force a fix by doing a firmware update. So we're going to hold down, turn it off. We're going to hold down both buttons and start. And that'll rejigger the firmware at least. I would love to have like one of my video shoots just go without anything not working. I'm just going to reflash the firmware here. And that should do it. Yeah, no, I've removed it already, Christian, so that it still was showing up as a... All right, let's go back and try this again. It just seemed like it was not going. It was not leaving switch mode. And I have a feeling now that we just reflashed the firmware. I'm willing to bet you that when we come back here, it's going to show up as the right thing. So let's go Bluetooth. This basically flushed it out. I may write to them and say, hey, found a little glitch. No, it's still showing up as Pro Controller. So it could be the computer. So why don't we reboot the computer real quick? Because it's off the list. I don't have it connected anymore. And it could be that the computer is caching the, because here's the complexity, is that I'm guessing the Bluetooth MAC address is probably the same no matter which mode it's in. So we'll see what happens here. And in case you're wondering, there's no rumble or motion controls on this. I don't think they could fit that. All right, wow, we're into this for an hour already. See how this time flies with this stuff? I mean, it's just crazy how these things happen. All right, so now we're rebooting. And let me just log back into my computer. The one thing I don't, that I wish this had was fingerprint readers and stuff. I actually have a third-party fingerprint reader that works with this. I'm going to probably plug that in because it's just faster to have the fingerprint going. Okay, let me log back into the computer here. I'll go back on Steam because we have to do that too. And then Game Pass tells me I have new games I can play. So on top of all the Steam stuff that I have and don't play, I have Game Pass with even more stuff. So it used to be, like this time of year is when I would used to like just do most of my video game binging. But now with the kids, forget it. So I do play some games with my daughter. So my daughters and I were playing Luigi's Mansion on the Switch, and we had a great time with that. That's a great family game. And what was really fun about it was that there's a co-op mode, and the co-op is unique because the second player is playing like this liquefied version of Luigi, so he has different attributes. All right, let me go back and add the Bluetooth device. There it is. Reboot of the computer did it. I'm still seeing that Pro Controller there, but now I'm seeing the 8bitdo 0. And it's not connecting. I think this thing is like zonked. Oh, there we go. All right, now we're good. So let's go back to Steam. I'm not going to buy anything. But like when you get these deals like 75%, I don't play The Sims 3, but like you can get the franchise. Are they seriously selling the whole thing for $5? This is a great game. This is Ace Attorney, what's his name? Yeah, the trilogy. So I have this on the Switch. That's a fun game. Oh, don't get me started here. We're not going to do this right now. All right, let's go back to Shovel Knight. And Shovel Knight is a game I really want to play more of, and I never play it outside of reviews. Yeah, he's called Guigi. Is the liquefied Luigi. And what's cool about the way that player works is that he's got different attributes. So when he gets killed, he just comes back. So for my daughter who's 6, she was loving it because like she was able to play the game and be helpful, and it was such a fun. We finished the game together. So I wasn't playing it until she was able to play it with me. So we had just a great time with that. All right, so I'm going to go and yeah, it seems to work. I'm going to go into a different level though and see if I can get that going here. Yeah, I mean, it works. Oh, but it flies out of your hand. So yeah, that's going to be the one issue with it. PXC, does anyone know of a company comparable to 8bitdo in terms of product quality who make N64 or GameCube clones? Who is well, I think, is it Retrobit that's making them? Retrobit's done some nice stuff too, because I saw some stuff at CES last year. And I'm going back again. There's an exhibitor at CES that does some awesome stuff, and they're like a distributor for Retrobit and a bunch of other stuff. So I make a point to go to their booth every year because it's so like I just love that stuff. So, all right, I think we've got enough here to start with the PC stuff. So we're going to go into PC gaming, and what I might want to do, I'm just trying to think out loud here, is I might want to go and show the mapping. I could probably talk about the mapping. That probably would make more sense. All right, it's been so long since I think we did our last cut an hour ago, so let me see where I left off here. The small size, why don't we move on now and see how this little controller performs, and we'll start with the PC. Okay, so we're going to start with the PC. All right. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we've got it booted up here on the PC. Now, the kinds of games you're going to play on the PC with this controller will be limited because, of course, we don't have thumbsticks here. You also don't have rumble, so if you like rumble on a controller, this one's not going to be the one for you. But games like this one, this is Shovel Knight, seem to do just fine here on the PC. It's certainly a very tiny controller. I am able to play the game here without too many problems. A little earlier, as I was playing around with it, though, the controller just kind of flew out of my hand because it is so tiny and you're gripping it very differently than you might on a traditional larger game controller. But as a PC controller, it seems to be doing okay here, and I'm not having a bad time, even though this thing is super tiny. Now, one thing to keep in mind here as well is that the D-pad here is mapped to the thumbstick that you would have on an X input controller. So the D-pad is not mapped to the D-pad, and that is probably a decision they made because most games probably rely on the stick for movement more than the directional pad. But if you've got something that is D-pad only, you're going to need to remap the controls. This is not an analog D-pad, of course. It is going to be digital, but you can, of course, remap that if your game supports it. So all in on the PC experience here, it isn't bad. A little bit earlier, we also tested the latency of the controller, basically measuring how long it takes for a button push to register on screen. And on my gaming laptop here, which has a 144 hertz display and the latest and greatest Bluetooth technology, we were looking at about a 44 millisecond latency from the time a button was pushed to when something occurs on screen. and that's actually identical to what I got with an Xbox One controller that was connected via USB to the computer. So very little latency here if your hardware supports that. But of course with Bluetooth, it's really going to vary based on what configuration you have. But on this PC here, it was every bit as good as a wired connection, and that was really impressive to me. Unlike other 8bitdo controllers, though, this will not operate in wired mode. It is Bluetooth only. So the only thing you can do with it when you plug it into the computer is update the firmware or charge it. You can't actually get the games to control when it's directly connected. All right, that was 2 minutes and change, actually. So that was, I think, pretty good there. And we'll roll in B-roll of that test running. So that will be good. Let me know if I missed anything. Did I not answer any questions or that you might have for a PC controller? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we've got it booted up here on the PC. Now, the kinds of games you're going to play on the PC with this controller will be limited because, of course, we don't have thumbsticks here. You also don't have rumble, so if you like rumble on a controller, this one's not going to be the one for you. But games like this one, this is Shovel Knight, seem to do just fine here on the PC. It's certainly a very tiny controller. I am able to play the game here without too many problems. A little earlier, as I was playing around with it, though, the controller just kind of flew out of my hand because it is so tiny and you're gripping it very differently than you might on a traditional larger game controller. But as a PC controller, it seems to be doing okay here, and I'm not having a bad time, even though this thing is super tiny. Now, one thing to keep in mind here as well is that the D-pad here is mapped to the thumbstick that you would have on an X input controller. So the D-pad is not mapped to the D-pad, and that is probably a decision they made because most games probably rely on the stick for movement more than the directional pad. But if you've got something that is D-pad only, you're going to need to remap the controls. This is not an analog D-pad, of course. It is going to be digital, but you can, of course, remap that if your game supports it. So all in on the PC experience here, it isn't bad. A little bit earlier, we also tested the latency of the controller, basically measuring how long it takes for a button push to register on screen. And on my gaming laptop here, which has a 144 Hertz display and the latest and greatest Bluetooth technology, we were looking at about a 44 millisecond latency from the time a button was pushed to when something occurs on screen. And that's actually identical to what I got with an Xbox One controller that was connected via USB to the computer. So very little latency here if your hardware supports that. But of course with Bluetooth, it's really going to vary based on what configuration you have. But on this PC here, it was every bit as good as a wired connection, and that was really impressive to me. Unlike other 8bitdo controllers, though, this will not operate in wired mode. It is Bluetooth only. So the only thing you can do with it when you plug it into the computer is update the firmware or charge it. You can't actually get the games to control when it's directly connected. All right. So now we're going to cut. I'm just going to do a little B-roll here, just to show that the left thumbstick is what's mapping here. So we'll just do this little roll of the finger here. All right. Okay, B-roll done. So we're going to call this 703 B-roll mapping to thumbstick. Okay. So now I think we'll do the switch. Have a great holiday, Christian Ramirez. Thank you for joining us. Much appreciated. It's always hard in the middle of the day to take some time off to watch some YouTube videos. I know how that goes. But I appreciate everybody stopping in. Yeah, I've been doing these live streams now for about almost a month, I think, because I do these on Amazon, and then I simulcast to YouTube. And the Amazon views have been great. People have been really tuning in. So I'm having fun with these. All right, so now we're going to get the switch set up. And I think I might set my monitor up here and just have a better, it'll be easier to show things, I think, if we do it that way. Although it might be kind of fun to have, let me try this shot first, because it might be fun with the tiny screen with the smaller controller. So let me get that zoomed in a little bit and see how that might work. Yeah, that may actually work better. Let me get the shot in focus, of course. There we go. All right. I usually have these cameras just autofocus so I don't have to operate everything here. And I think I ended on me. No, okay, so we're going to do the switch. So I'm going to go put it into switch mode here. So disconnect from that, start plus Y, and hit select. And we'll turn the switch back on here. And I'm also going to do a little B-roll run here. Okay, boom. Okay, so we're going to call this one 704 B-roll. This will be B-roll of the switch pairing procedure. All right. And I think for this one, we probably just want to show some Super Nintendo stuff, right? I mean, that would make the most sense. So let me pull up a Super NES game. So Beat the Bubble wants to know what indie games do I have on my Switch. I actually have quite a few of them. I'll show them to you in a few minutes. I've been doing most of the indie games I buy on the Switch because I prefer having the flexibility to play these games on. Oh, it just lost the controller. There it goes. So I think I'm going to show you actually Zelda, and there's a reason behind that. Oh, here's a problem, though. How do we get the save menu up, right? Oh, that's going to be a big problem. I wonder if anyone's addressed that issue. How do you get switch? Oh, okay, wait a minute. Here's a... So select plus start equals... Okay, so they thought about that. Good. I was about to ding them on that. All right, so select and start. There we go. See that? They thought of it because it doesn't have the left and right triggers on there. So what they did... I haven't actually started this game yet. Let me start this real quick. I'm trying to get my wife to play this game. This is, of course, the Super Nintendo Zelda, because she loved Zelda on the original Nintendo. I mean, she's played through it probably since I've known her. My wife and I have been together almost 20 years, and I knew her even before that. And she's played through Zelda as long as I've known her, about 5 times, and she played it a lot when she was a kid too. So she's really into it, and she's never tried any of the other Zeldas. She tried Zelda 2, but that's a very different game. I could understand why, but this one was kind of like back to the foundation of the series. What I want to do is just get them up. And the reason I'm going to show Zelda is twofold. One is because one of the dings against these controllers has been that as you're rocking back and forth from left to right, you're getting errant diagonals. And it looks like it's not doing that here. So he's drifting a little bit. Let's get him down off of this cliff here. Can he go down that far? Yes, he's drifting a little bit, so it's not going to be a perfect thing. They've rectified this a lot in some of the other controllers that they've had. Let's turn the volume down here. And I think what I might do is actually hold the switch up so we can demo that component too. 3, 2, 1. Now it is compatible with the Nintendo Switch, and all you have to do to get the Switch to work is put the controller into switch mode. You hold down the Y and start button, that will move it out of whatever mode it was in into something that's compatible with the Nintendo Switch, and I found the pairing to be very quick and easy like it is on other 8bitdo controllers. Remember though that you don't have all the buttons that you have on a Pro controller or even on the Joy-Cons, so that's going to limit what games you can play on the Switch, just like it does on the PC side. Now what I've loaded up here is a Super Nintendo game, and we're able to, of course, play all of the classics that we have access to on there. Now, the one thing you might notice is that we don't have the left and right trigger buttons here, just the shoulder buttons. And that's something you need for the emulators that they're running here on the Switch. So what they've done is they've mapped the left and right triggers on the Switch mode to select and start. So if you want to pull up the in-game menu here, you just push down select and start, and that will be the equivalent of hitting the left and right trigger buttons. And I would imagine it would do that same thing in some of the games that you might be playing. Now, one thing that 8bitdo has been dinged on over the years is their D-pads and the fact that sometimes you get errant diagonals when you don't intend to have a diagonal movement. Here, as you can see, as I try to go quickly from left to right, he is drifting a bit up and down. So it is picking up some of those errant diagonals here. And I think that's partially because this D-pad is not quite full size, and it's working within a very limited case here, so you're not going to get a lot of precision here, and if you're looking for a precise D-pad, this little guy is certainly not going to do it. But I think for most games you should be okay, but I know some people are not going to like the fact that it does feel like you will get some unintentional diagonals, especially when you're moving very quickly from left to right on it. But again, you're going to be limited as to what you can play on here, but I do think it's a decent pairing for some of the classic games that you can get through the Nintendo online service there. We also measure, let me see if I have anything salvageable there. And then I'll slip into the next thing. Eric says, I'm still going. Yeah, you know, we had a couple little technical glitches, but I am almost done, actually. I think we're making good time here. I want to show the Android compatibility, and then I'll probably wrap it up after we get through the Switch thing. So let's see how we did on that one. 3, 2, 1. Now it is compatible with the Nintendo Switch, and all you have to do to get the Switch to work is put the controller into Switch mode. You hold down the Y and start button. That will move it out of whatever mode it was in into something that's compatible with the Nintendo Switch, and I found the pairing to be very quick and easy like it is on other 8bitdo controllers. Remember though that you don't have all the buttons that you have on a Pro controller or even on the Joy-Cons, so that's going to limit what games you can play on the Switch, just like it does on the PC side. Now what I've loaded up here is a Super Nintendo game, and we're able to, of course, play all of the classics that we have access to on there. Now, the one thing you might notice is that we don't have the left and right trigger buttons here, just the shoulder buttons. And that's something you need for the emulators that they're running here on the Switch. So what they've done is they've mapped the left and right triggers on the Switch mode to select and start. So if you want to pull up the in-game menu here, you just push down select and start, and that will be the equivalent of hitting the left and right trigger buttons. And I would imagine it would do that same thing in some of the games that you might be playing. Now, one thing that 8bitdo has been dinged on over the years is their D-pads and the fact that sometimes you get errant diagonals when you don't intend to have a diagonal movement. Here, as you can see, as I try to go quickly from left to right, he is drifting a bit up and down. So it is picking up some of those errant diagonals here, and I think that's partially because this D-pad is not quite full size, and it's working within a very limited case here, so you're not going to get a lot of precision here, and if you're looking for a precise D-pad, this little guy is certainly not going to do it. But I think for most games you should be okay, but I know some people are not going to like the fact that it does feel like you will get some unintentional diagonals, especially when you're moving very quickly from left to right on it. But again, you're going to be limited as to what you can. So I know where I'm going to cut it there, and then we'll get into the latency. I'm just going to refresh my memory on that one. Usually I do all this stuff before I shoot, but I thought it might be fun for you to see how I measure latency on these little controllers. So that's why I wanted to do that. So let me pull this up here real quick. I will say it's kind of fun to do this for a living. I mean, think about the fact that I can play video games for a living. Not that I actually play the games, but we demonstrate them for a living, right? So that's kind of fun. Let me just pull up my notes here again. All right, 84 milliseconds was the, and the Pro controller I measured at 72. Okay. All right. Just going to reset here. 3, 2, 1. Now we also measured latency with the switch to see how this might compare to some other controllers we have looked at. And using the switch screen as our measurement, we were getting about 84 milliseconds between the time we pushed a button and something registering on screen. This is about exactly what I experienced with other 8bitdo controllers that we've reviewed previously, and it's about 10 milliseconds or so slower than Nintendo's own Switch Pro controller. But overall, not bad compared to the Pro controller, and I think adequate for most of the Switch games you'll play. But you might encounter some latency issues when playing with the emulator games here because, of course, those do have some of their own input lag on top of what the controller might be introducing. But overall, for a quick and dirty controller that you can... Let me start again. I'm just starting to blabber on too much. Ugh. Okay, one more time. Yeah, Eric is appreciating the fact, too, that you can... Yeah, you get compensated for providing things that the world might be interested in. I think that's a wonderful thing. That's why I get so passionate about protecting modern, what this new era of media is all about, because it's really empowered a lot of individual voices that, not even just in news and politics, just everywhere. I mean, think about this. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this if this technology didn't exist. So I think that's like really powerful. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Now we also measured input latency on the Switch with the controller here. We measured it on the Switch screen because that's how we've done a lot of these tests before, and it came in almost exactly where other 8bitdo controllers have performed with the Nintendo Switch. So on this one we got about 84 milliseconds between the time a button was pushed and something happened. 3, 2, 1. Now we also measured latency on the Switch, measuring against the Switch onboard display. There we got a score of, that's not a score really, it's a time, 3, 2, 1. Now we also measured latency on the Nintendo Switch using its screen to take those measurements, and we got a latency of 84 milliseconds with the little controller here. That's pretty much exactly the same as what we've received on other 8bitdo controllers over the last couple of months as well, so it's about in line with other things that 8bitdo puts out there, and it's about 10 milliseconds slower than Nintendo's Pro controller. And if you are playing some of these emulated games, you might have an area where you could see that latency becoming an issue. But generally, you're going to have the issue anyhow, just given the fact that these games are being emulated and have a lot of lag introduced, even on a wired controller going in. I don't want to go too far into that. Let me try one more time. 3, 2, 1. Now, we also took a look at latency on the Switch, and we measured it on the Switch display with the 0.2 here. We got a latency of 84 milliseconds, again, from the time the button was pushed to when something happens on screen. That is identical to what we got on other Switch controllers that 8bitdo puts out there. So altogether, the same as you would see on a one more time, 3, 2, 1. Now, we also measured latency on the Nintendo Switch using its display as the measurement, and we got 84 milliseconds of delay between the button push here and something happening on the Switch display. That is identical to what we got with other Switch controllers that we've looked at over the last couple of months, but it is about 10 milliseconds slower than what you get out of Nintendo's Pro controller. So not bad, but you will see a little bit more latency that will probably not be noticeable. And of course, these games are emulated, so there's some latency baked in from that as well. So if you want the real true experience, of course, you'll want to go with the original hardware. Now, these things are very compatible, so let's take a look at some other things it works with. We've got an Android phone now that I wanted to plug in and test. And before we do that, one of the cool things about these controllers is that they print the instructions on the back here, so you know the button combinations that you have to press to get it into each mode, and that can be really helpful if you don't have the included manual with you in your bag. All right, let's take a look now at my Android phone and see how it performs on that. I can live with that take. What do you all think of that? Let me know. All right, I'm just going to log this clip This is our 705, 706. Switch latency. And add that. And then we're going to do the Android phone. I've got my Pixel 4 here. And let's get that connected real quick. I've got this. You know, it's funny. I always get people asking about this stand. So Amazon, you know what? I'm on Amazon right now. I should add this to my product carousel. This stand is, so this is like got one DG rocker. I mean, this is like, you know, everyone makes the same stand. So Amazon has an Amazon's basic version of this. I think it's like 10 bucks. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And it works really well for putting a phone on a stand like that. Let me see, Amazon Basics phone stand. Or a tablet stand, actually. It's actually a tablet stand, but if you have a big enough phone, not a big deal, right? Here it is. So if you're on Amazon right now, I just added it to the carousel. And I'm going to jump back into my chat here and select it. And you can see what it looks like. $9.40. And you could put a tablet on this. And what I like about it is that when you adjust, you can adjust in a bunch of different ways. So you can really get it to where you want it to be. So with a phone here, obviously I have it like in its lowest position. But if you had like an iPad or something larger, you can just kind of, you have the ability to adjust the legs here at the bottom and the up and down. And it's padded here on the back, and it's padded anywhere where the device touches, it's padded. So it's all really handy there. All right, so let me just get into my phone real quick here. And this phone, by the way, came in from Google. This is their Pixel 4. It's a nice phone. And I think what I want to do is download one of the Sega games. Maybe we'll grab Sonic the Hedgehog or something. Sonic the Hedgehog Classic. That'll do it. I think this is the one that was remastered for the widescreen. So we're just going to download this real quick. This might be the original emulated one. We'll see. All right. Thank you, Nathan. I was glad to get your feedback on this because it's helpful with you all watching to give me some good feedback on things. And I'm going to now have to pair this phone up with it. So we're going to go into, oh, you know, this might be a good opportunity to do also because I think it was Martin or somebody reminded me that you can use this as a phone shutter because there's a keyboard mode. Okay, so let me open this up real quick here. Oh, I got to pair the phone up. Press R and start to turn the controller. Plus, I'm just trying to see what the what command would be to get the phone to take a picture. All right. It wants my age. It really wants to know how old I am. I turned 43. I'm 43 now. It's kind of scary. Like, where does the time go? All right. So we're just going to play ad supported. And I'm going to just pair up the controller here too. I need to buy a few more Android games because I have not bought that many, and I do test a lot of Android stuff out quite a bit. So B and Start is like the standard Android mode, which is the standard Bluetooth HID input mode that you would select. And I'm just going to hit this select button here. We're going to go to Bluetooth. And we're going to pair it up with the Bluetooth. And by the way, this is how small it is. Pair new device, 8bitdo 0. All right, it is paired up. Okay, so now let's go back to Sonic 1. And so I got to install Google Play Games now too. Okay, so let's do that. And then we can play a little Sonic 1. I like the Google Pixel phones. I think they've done a nice job with these. I looked at, they sent me this one, and they also sent me the Pixel 3a. The Pixel 3a was one of my phones of the, is one of my products of the year because I think it's a very good value. It's got a really nice display. So I'm very happy with that. All right, ad supported. Let's start the game. I gotta watch this stupid ad. I had to watch this ad like yesterday when we were doing something also. We're under attack. See, oh, the X is up here. That's right. Okay, there we go. All right, let's just do a new game here. And we'll select Sonic. Sega. I don't think that flashing's supposed to happen though, is it? Well, you know what's funny? So here's what's funny. You're not seeing the flashing. I'm seeing like a lot of flashing. All right, there we go. Now the one thing I am noticing with Android is it feels like there's a lot of latency here. I can almost feel it. And that's one of the issues that I've long encountered with Android devices is that they are super laggy. All right, let me turn off the on-screen. I guess you can turn it off with controls. Huh. You can turn the latency down and make it disappear. There we go. They should make that more clear that you could just turn it off, because I don't think a lot of people would know what opacity means. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hey, just like me, it does 3, 2, 1. How about that? All right. All right, so you know what I'm going to do, Martin? I'm going to try. I don't know if you know what button to push. We'll figure that out. I'll put it into keyboard mode, and then we'll try it that way. All right, so I think we left it on. I just want to see what I had from this take here. Give me 1 second, folks. So the button combinations that you have to press to get it into each mode, and that can be really helpful if you don't have the included manual with you in your bag. All right, let's take a look now at my Android phone and see how it performs on that. Test. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we paired it up in Android mode, and I've got Sonic the Hedgehog here running, and it feels like it's running pretty nicely here too. This, though, is where I detect a lot more latency, and this is not the controller's fault. Android phones just do not do well with game controllers, at least most of the consumer phones, and as such, you're going to feel a lot of button lag on this one. I could really feel it, especially in a game like Sonic here. So, you know, it's just not ideal, I think, to play some of these action games on a phone. But if, I'm going to start that again. I probably should measure the latency, but it's going to be so bad. It's like, I mean, I could feel it. All right. So let me start this again one more time. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we've got this thing paired up with my Pixel 4, which, by the way, came in free of charge from Google. And it's running pretty nicely on here. It does have a bit of lag, and that's something that I've always noticed with Android devices and game controllers. There's a ton of lag with these things, and it's never ideal, I think, to play any kind of game that requires a game controller on a basic consumer Android device. I'm sure there's some gaming phones out there that do a little better, but you could really feel the latency here, so be advised of that. But it does seem to work when you put it into the proper pairing mode to function fine with an Android device. And again, you'll be limited based on the controls you have available to you here, but a lot of classic games I think should run just fine on it. Now there's one more thing that I want to try here, because they also have what's called keyboard mode, and this will allow the controller to emulate a keyboard. Now, of course, we don't have a lot of buttons here to push on a keyboard, but you might be able to have your camera shutter go off with this and use it as a little camera remote. Let's see if we can get that to work with our Pixel phone here. All right. So PXC wants me to look at the Hyperkin Admiral for the PC and Switch. I'll have to take a look at that. You know what I really want Nintendo to do? I want to see all of their older games on the Switch. Like, I am dying to play Mario 64 in a nice, like, I want like their version of it. I mean, it'd be awesome. It would be like a Mario 64 remake that has the original and then like all the latest graphics on it. Like, that would be totally awesome. Because I am dying to play. I may just hook up. I have, this might be a fun thing to do one day. I have one of those line doublers. I have the, what do they call it? The, who makes, you know what I'm talking about. It's the line doubler that everybody's using. Not the M Classic. It's, I'm like totally blanking on it at the moment. In any event, I can hook it up to my 4K TV upstairs, but it doesn't look great because the best you can get out of the Nintendo 64 unmodded is S-Video. But it, I may just play a round of Mario 64. So it's funny, when the Nintendo 64 came out, they were impossible to find. I mean, that holiday of, I think it was holiday '96 was when it came out. And my brother, who was 11 years younger than me, wanted one. And I was going to school in the Hartford area here in Connecticut, so I had a lot of retailers around me. And This was before you could go on the internet and have it tell you when there was stock somewhere. So I would go out every couple of days looking for the Nintendo. And my father ended up finding one, and he had me take it so that my brother wouldn't find it before Christmas. So I had the Nintendo 64 in my dorm room for like 2 months, right around finals time. It was not the best time to have a Nintendo 64 on hand, but so I always have fond memories around this time of year with the Nintendo 64. And just to give you an idea of what my dorm room looked like at that point, so I was an RA, so I had a single. And I subdivided my room into 2 sections. So I had where the bed was on the wall. I had the desk on the other side where I did all my work. And then I kind of separated the room with the desk. And then I set up a little living space with the couch. There was a couch that was somewhere in the basement that I just acquired as an RA. And I set that up in front of my little 14-inch TV. And connected to that TV, in '96, I had, get this, so this was before, oh, I had the PlayStation already too. So I had a PlayStation 1, so I got that my sophomore year, this was my junior year. So I had a PlayStation 1, a 3DO, and a Sega Tower of Power, complete with the 32X and everything. It was like I was the place to go visit because I had all the games. Wait a minute, no, I don't think I got the PlayStation yet. I'm trying to think, it was '95, right? No, I did have the PlayStation. I must have gotten it when I was a sophomore. I did get it when I was a sophomore. Okay, yeah, so I had the PlayStation too. All right, so what do we got here? No, it wasn't the open source scan converter. It's the RetroTink. That's what it is. It's a line doubler. So it does 480p from 480i. That's what it does. PXC, I think they have a few inspired stages there, and it's just not the same. Like I really want to display the original again. RC Pro-Am on the Switch would be awesome. I think a VR RC Pro-Am would be fun, where you're standing, looking down on the track in 3D. That'd be really cool. Rup Sarkar, thank you very much for your Super Chat contribution. It is appreciated. Thank you. Can pay for some Steam games, right? Actually, those dollars, all the Super Chat stuff, by the way, goes towards our payroll, because we have Jake and James who help me on the channel here. So those dollars are earmarked for the labor cost. It offsets that. Let me pull up, I'm going to pull up the pairing here and get the Bluetooth settings selected again. All right, Bluetooth, I'm going to go back to pair new device. Now what I'm going to do here is unpair the 8bitdo, and then we're going to switch it into keyboard mode. So we hit R and start to get it into that mode. All right, so now we're in that mode. I'm going to hit the select button. And we're going to pair new device. And now it's showing up as a keyboard. So it's actually showing up with a keyboard icon. All right, we're connected. Okay, so let's pull up the camera. This thing has a great camera on it, by the way. It's got an astrophotography mode, which has been really fun to play with. I probably shouldn't take a picture of my disaster of a room here. Let's switch it to me. I'm trying to find the button combo that works here. All right, no pictures are being taken here, but we are paired up. So let's see. Let me load up a little notepad application here and see what, we may have to cut this part out of the video. Let's see. Let me pull up some kind of text editor. I'll use my Google Docs. I'll just pull up a text message thing here. Let's see. Okay. Start chat. And I'm going to do a chat. Let me go find something I can type a thing into here. Files. You can tell I don't use an Android phone all the time because I'm trying to find something I can just bang some text into. Let's see what, here we go. We'll just see what I have here. So FECDF. Okay, so it looks like, I wonder if you can, and this is I, H share, you can see what I'm, so I guess you could probably map this to a, so that would be like, you could map it to a game if it had a keyboard input. Control auto connect. On keyboard, make sure you have the input language on your device set to English. So I wonder if there's a way we can set a shortcut key for the camera. because nothing was setting the camera off here. I pushed all the buttons. Hang on, let me see if I can figure out the... Oh, okay. So Jonathan Adams wants to know a list of educational games with the Switch. You know, I'm going to get, that's not a bad idea. I might take a look at that because I did get my, I mentioned I got my wife a Switch, Switch Lite, and I have a feeling my daughter's going to end up playing with it more. But my daughter's getting enough stuff already, so I didn't want to just get another thing for her. So, because she got, you know, these two were, like on my side of the family, these are the only grandkids, so they get just too much stuff. So I wanted to be really careful and thoughtful about how much we do for Christmas. Thankfully, my kids are not like all that crazy about physical objects and things, even though their father runs a consumer electronics channel. Let's see if I can figure out a way to... Oops. Okay, I'm just seeing if there's a way to like have a trigger. Because usually on these phones you can hit the volume button or something. But I could do is maybe look on 8bitdo. 8bitdo zero shutter. Let's try that real quick and see what we can get there. Oops. I just want to give the Amazon people something to look at here while we're looking this up. So there is a video on the 8bitdo YouTube channel where you can have it. So they've got it mapped to the down button there. Let's see. It may just be an iPhone thing, which would be odd because it's really not designed for the iPhone, right? Press select button for 2 seconds on 0. Okay. Switch on Bluetooth in your iOS. Let me show you what I'm looking at here. It might just be an iPhone thing. It's like any button it says it works with, huh? All right, so in this instance, they did something different than what I did. So they did just select. Actually, let me go back one notch here. And this is the old version of it. Select on, okay, to start 0. Okay, this is the iOS side. So let's try it with my iPhone real quick and see if it does that. So I'm going to break the pairing. And it may just not be something this thing does, but let me break the pairing with my phone here. And I just want to see where I left off there because I don't want to go into this shutter thing if... It's not funny, though. It would do that with the iPhone and not with the Android phone. All right, let's see. Let's try... let me break the pairing here and see if it does it with the other one. And it could be that the iPhone just takes pictures with any input. That could be what it is, too. All right, bear with me. I'm just trying to find my Bluetooth controls on here. Bluetooth. We'll get it back there. All right. I'm actually on schedule here. I'm actually pleased that I'm not like too far behind right now, so that's good. So my next step is here. I'm going to go and edit this video in a little while. And then I've got my friend coming in because... Okay, Bluetooth is on. All right, so let me set this thing back in the pairing mode. So my friend is coming. So I think for those of you who've been on the chat for a little bit, so tonight is I guess last night technically was opening night for the new Star Wars movie. But as I mentioned, I rent out a whole theater for Star Wars for my friends and I. So we've got almost 170. 169 is my count at the moment, and hopefully my count is accurate. Otherwise, gonna have somebody's gonna get disappointed. So we've got 170 coming tonight, and we're gonna watch the Rise of Skywalker together, which I am excited about. I'm not as excited about this one as I have been about some of the other ones, and I think it's just because there's been. I'm going to talk about this on my wrap-up video. I think that Disney has just been too over. It's been too reactive to everything. Yeah, this doesn't work as a phone shutter. So it looks like they took that feature out. So we're going to see where we last ended on the last clip here. No problem, Martin. Actually, no, if it does something cool, I want to include it, and I wouldn't have known to even think about that had that not been on the other ones. So this is not time wasted at all, not by any means. A keyboard. Now, of course, we don't have a lot of buttons. We also have what's called Find on it. Now, there's one more thing. All right. So, hot sauce and video games is in a little bit late. Yeah, it's all right. You know, we're in the middle of the day. It's okay. I'll give you a pass on that one. And hot sauce is one of our YouTube members. You get those little icons next to your name if you become a member. All right. So I guess keyboard mode would make sense in certain instances. All right. So I think I'm just going to leave it at that and just explain there's a keyboard mode. You can map, if all else fails, you can map certain keys to things. And that might work in, I don't think it'll work in Android. Well, it would work in anything really, but I mean, I think it's probably going to be for some mobile games that require a keyboard input. And this was something that was very prevalent in the past on iOS because, actually there is something I want to try real quick. Because iOS was very unkind to third-party game controllers, and for a long time they wouldn't allow any game controllers to really work with it. So everyone was doing keyboard mode, and they would map key inputs to the controller. But what I wanted to try here real quick, because while I've got this out, is that somebody had said to me that if you go into the accessibility settings, you can get the controller to work. So I just want to try this real quick and see if that is the case. This is on the iPhone. Let me try and see if they've updated anything also. So it's in X input mode again on the iPhone, and I just want to see if it's going to show up here as a potential device. So the iPhone will pair up with a real X input controller like an Xbox or something, but not the 8bitdo. And somebody said that if you go into accessibility settings, you can maybe get it to work with that. So it's not seeing it here on my list of devices, because now it's back in its X input mode. So if we go to accessibility, I'm trying to see where it would, physical and motor, switch control, voice control, side button, Apple TV remote, keyboards, hearing. I'm not seeing anything in here that would. I'm going to have to look into that. It might be a whole separate video anyhow, because that might require some how-to, and that would be more relevant across all 8bitdo stuff versus just this one. All right, so I think I'm just going to mention the keyboard mode, and we'll kind of wrap it up from there. Hello, Eric E. Thank you for joining. All right. So I think I've covered everything, right? So we did the Switch. We did the PC, we did Android, we did the latency. I'm looking at, let's see, about 3.5. I mean, we've got about 7 or 8 minutes here, so I think this is about what I usually cover. I'll just double check after I finish shooting and see where it goes. So let's see, Corsiger PWND. I always wondered, is your channel name based on the Lon Ranch from Zelda? No, it's actually based on the fact that my name is Lon. That's where I got it from. And actually, well, and it's funny. So what happened with this? I got to log back into Amazon here, folks, in 1 second. What happened was that when I started the channel, it was originally Lon Reviews Tech, and then I was looking around on one of those domain name things, and they had Lon.TV was available, and it wasn't like being squatted on. It was like just available, and I had to pay a premium price for it one time. And I guess like this is like the chief export of a small island known as, I believe it's Tuvalu, is the island that has the .tv domain, and I think this is their chief revenue generator. And so what I did was I think it was maybe $400 and something. I mean, it was not like super inexpensive, but I was like, wow, that's a one-time opportunity to get a 3-letter .tv domain name that happens to be my name. So I registered Lon.TV, and that became the thing. And there's, if I ever build out the brand more than what it is right now, I mean, I could grow it into other things too if I wanted to. So that was kind of the thought process behind it. Yeah, the country of Tuvalu. That is correct, Mr. Wilson. Is the 02 compatible with the Raspberry Pi? It is. So I will mention that. So you'll want to switch it into Bluetooth HID mode. All right. So let me go and we're going to pick it back up here. And I think we left it on me at the end of this one. Let's see. Buttons here to push on, I think should run just fine on it. Now there's one more thing that I think should run just fine on it. Okay. So we're going to come back on me. 3, 2, 1. Now the mode, I think the Raspberry Pi is the same as, yeah, I think you're going to put it in the B mode. 3, 2, 1. Now because it works with 3, 2, 1. Now this will also work, of course, with Android TV devices along with Raspberry Pis. They even have a keyboard mode where you can have the buttons here execute certain key presses, and you can map your game's keyboard in 3, 2, 1. Now it will also 3, 2, 1. Now it should also, actually I know it works with other stuff, I didn't say should, 3, 2, 1. Now it also works with Android TV devices like the NVIDIA Shield and other Android-based TV boxes, so you should be able to connect it up via Bluetooth with those. The Raspberry Pi is also compatible, it will work fine there. And if all else fails, they have a keyboard input method on this where you can have key presses mapped to button pushes. Now you can't choose what keys go with what button push, but it does allow you to map keyboard inputs to the game controller on just about any device because it will appear as a Bluetooth keyboard. So there's a good chance it will likely work with whatever you're trying to get it to work with, unless, of course, you have an iPad or an iPhone. I was unable to get it to work with those. If you have some suggestions, do let me know down in the comments section, and we'll do a follow-up on this one and maybe a few other 8bitdo controllers to see how you might get these things working with the iOS platform, because they're not currently working with it now. So overall, not a bad little game controller. It's nice and portable, probably great for smaller hands, but if you are looking for something this tiny that's pretty functional and compatible, this one might be worth taking a look at. I was very pleased with the latency, although I was not pleased with the D-pad here. It's not very precise, and I know a lot of serious game players will have a hard time with that, but I also think a lot of serious game players probably won't buy a controller this small. So I do think it's probably a useful little stocking stuffer or something just to throw in your bag when you want to take out a quick game session of something and be able to get that game working for that. Blah, 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 blah. One more time. See, it's always the conclusions where I screw up. B2 Balbo wants to know how the website is coming along. We're almost there. I've got to just follow back up after the holidays, and I think we'll be ready to launch in January, probably after CES. All right, one more time. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Now it also works with Android TV devices along with the Raspberry Pi, so you should have all of that compatibility there for you on those devices. 3, 2, 1. Now it also works with the Android TV platform, including the NVIDIA Shield. It works with the Raspberry Pi if you have a Bluetooth Pi. So altogether, compatibility here is very good. They also have a keyboard mode where you can have this thing act as a keyboard. So if you've got a game that doesn't support a gamepad but does support key presses, you can map those key presses to what you got on here. Just note, though, that you can't assign specific keys to the buttons here. They're pre-assigned, but again, you can map those key presses to games that support a blanket key mapping for controls. So altogether, a very nicely compatible controller, not all that precise, so I think serious gamers will want to look elsewhere, but I also think serious gamers won't be buying something this small. This is one of these fun little things that you can use as a stocking stuffer or maybe throw in your own bag, so if you wanted to have a quick gameplay session without having to lug around a large controller, this will certainly get the job done and is always better than touch controls, so it's definitely worth taking a look at. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. We always like to do follow-ups on these 8bitdo things because they tend to make firmware improvements over time, so as conditions warrant, we will probably come back and revisit this little guy here, but at the end of the day, see what happens to me? I just get totally mixed up. So let me see if I can salvage any of that. See, if I scripted things, it would be much better. But what happens too, like right around 2 o'clock is when I usually get my coffee. And like I haven't had my coffee yet. I need to like sharpen up my mind here. So 708 conclusion part 1. We'll see if we can salvage anything. Because that was pretty good up until I started blabbering. So let's play that. 3, 2, 1. Now it also works with the Android TV platform, including the NVIDIA Shield. It works with the Raspberry Pi if you have a Bluetooth Pi. So altogether, compatibility here is very good. They also have a keyboard mode where you can have this thing act as a keyboard. So if you've got a game that doesn't support a gamepad but does support key presses, you can map those key presses to what you got on here. Just note, though, that you can't assign specific keys to the buttons here. They're pre-assigned, but again, you can map those key presses to games that support a blanket key mapping for controls. So altogether, a very nicely compatible controller, not all that precise, so I think serious gamers will want to look elsewhere, but I also think serious gamers won't be buying something this small. This is one of these fun little things that you can use as a stocking stuffer or maybe throw in your own bag, so if you wanted to have a quick gameplay session without having to lug around a large controller, this will certainly get the job done and is always better than touch controls, so it's definitely worth taking a look at. Let me know what you thought. I cut it there. So, sorry, just had to do that. All right. 3, 2, 1. So let me know what you thought of this little controller down in the comments below. And until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. Easy enough, right? Okay, so I think we're good. Oh wait, did I mention, I think I mentioned Apple in that last take. Let me double check that. Conclusion part 2. Otherwise, we're going to have to come back to that as well. 3, 2, 1. Now it also works with the Android TV platform, including the NVIDIA Shield. It works with the Raspberry Pi. If you've got a game that doesn't support a gamepad but does support key presses, you can map those key presses to what you got on here. Just note, though, that you can't assign specific keys to key presses to games that support a blanket key mapping for controls. So altogether, a very nicely compatible controller, not all that precise, so I think serious gamers will want to look elsewhere, but I also think serious... I'm going to redo that whole section because I didn't mention iOS at all. So let's go back and start from the top. Get it right. It's my thing, by the way. If it's not right, make it right. So an extra 5 minutes here to answer a question. I'd hate to have somebody go through this entire video coming for an iOS question and not have that answered. So that is why I want to shoot that part over again. DK Savage 81, do I find that live streams impact the viewership of the finished product? I actually think it's making it better, partly because a lot of folks don't want to like tune in for the whole 4 hours sometimes that I'm doing this. So I think it actually enhances the mix here. Well, this is good. I was so concerned we'd be running out of space in the theater tonight, and I have 4 cancellations, so there'll be a few extra seats, which is actually good. All right, so let me start again here. I just want to remember where I picked up. Okay, it was on that. All right, 3, 2, 1. Now it also works with the NVIDIA Shield TV and other Android TV devices. Depending on the device, you can put it in X input mode or that Bluetooth mode that we were just in. It also will work with the Raspberry Pi, so you can use it there too. One thing it doesn't work with at the moment, though, are iOS devices like the iPhone and iPad. They are expanding game controller compatibility, but they're not yet seeing these things as compatible X-input controllers. So at the moment, no iOS support. That might come at a later time. There might be a workaround that I'm not familiar with, so do let me know down in the comment stream, and we'll definitely make an update video if and when these controllers do work with iOS. One workaround that they do have built in is that this thing can emulate a keyboard. It's got key presses mapped to specific buttons. So if you have games that support keyboard input, you could map this controller as a keyboard and use it that way. And that might be one solution on iOS, but for the most part here, iOS is a no-go. But all in, it's a nice little controller here, a ton of compatibility. I think great for Switch players. I think this might actually be more comfortable than a little Joy-Con that you might hold with you for some of the two-player games, so it's got that going for it. And altogether a nice little controller given how tiny it is. It's not going to be very precise in its D-pad though, so serious gamers will probably not want to pursue this as a controller option, but I don't think serious gamers will be buying something this small to play games. But for everyone else, it's a nice stocking stuffer and something just to have in your bag when you want to have a quick gameplay session on your phone or computer or something like that. So that's going to do it here for the 8bitdo 02. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. And until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. All right, that came together much better. See that? Now I'm not editing 1,200 things. So we'll see how that looks. And thank you, the Lessie, for tuning in. And do me a favor, watch it again when it posts as an edited thing. Because you know what's actually what I've heard from some people, this was kind of fun. I got some feedback from folks that they like seeing the finished product because they saw how the whole thing came together. And you know, this is not a super high-end production that I do here, but it's, you know, when you think about how you make a movie, it's very similar here because movies are generally shot in real time. You know, you're doing all these different takes and stuff, but you have to piece it together, and that's what I do. So I'm always thinking about the edit as I'm working on this. All right. Well, folks, I have a short window of time here because it is 2:25. I have a package waiting for me at my mailbox, so I have to go get that. And I'm going to then I'm going to go get that. I'm going to go back here and edit because I want to get this video locked and loaded for 7 p.m. tonight. And I actually have a good backlog right now of finished videos, which I'm so happy about because I'm going to try to take some time off between Christmas and New Year's. I do have one thing I'll be doing, but for the most part, I'll be taking a break because after I get back and back into work mode after the New Year, CES is like the first week in January, so we're going to be real super busy at that show. So I'm flying out on Sunday the 4th or the 3rd, whatever day that is. And then we do CES. I'm leaving in the morning on Thursday, and I'm getting back at like 4:30 or something. And I'm the chair of my school board, so I'm getting back to my house at like probably about 5:30 or 6. Take a quick shower, and then go run the school board meeting, and then come home and crash. And then I think I'm going to take that next day off. Just take that Friday off, and then work, do a little bit of work on the weekend. So that is it. All right. I'm going to, whoops, I hit the wrong button here. I just lost everybody. I am going to sign off the stream here. Let me see if there's any more questions. And then I'm going to go pick up, so I got some Chewy thing coming from Chewy in China. So they make those tablets that are not that expensive, so we're going to get one of those. I'm going to try to shoot it before the break, but likely not. We'll see where it goes. Lessie, enjoyed it? Great, thank you. Let me see if I missed any other chats here, because I see like half of something there. Okay. Okay, let me run here, and I will catch you all very soon. If you asked a question that I missed, because I see Rudy is talking about Switch control, not the Nintendo console. I'm not sure what he was talking about there. So in any event, I gotta run. So I gotta get this done so I can go and make my movie. So so the movie's at 6:30, but I'm getting there early just so that everybody can get settled in. So. All right. Well, good evening or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank Fernie Lopez and Roop Sakar for their super chat contributions. Happy holidays to everybody. I'll be back with at least one or two more of these live streams before time is up for the holidays, because there will be some time where the family will be out of the house and I can tinker around with stuff, and I've been enjoying just tinkering on the chats with those. This review of this little controller will be up this evening, so if you missed the live stream, look for the review that'll be up tonight. And then on the 27th at 11 a.m. Eastern, I'll have another live stream, and I'm going to be somewhere else, nothing exciting, but I'll be somewhere else, but I'm going to talk about some of the things that I'm traveling with, and it'll be a fun little thing that I'm going to do for Amazon. So lots more to come. Follow me, though, on Amazon. If you go to Lon.TV/Amazon shop, I don't think I'm doing anything exclusive there yet, but you'll get notified maybe better than you might get on YouTube sometimes. So definitely check out the Amazon link, because I'm trying to build out my content there a bit as well. So cool. All right, everybody. Thank you all for sticking with me. We had a good turnout for this one, so I'm glad you all enjoyed it. I enjoy doing these in front of you because it makes me work. Actually, I work better with you watching me, so that's partly why I've been doing this too. And I will be back again very shortly. Thank you all for those questions, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.